Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I'm going to go over some potential new information for New World that a lot of people in the community have been talking about and a lot of people have been commenting on my videos about. And this is specifically in regards to a reply made by the official New World Twitter that most people have taken as meaning New World won't have any new content added to it that we didn't see in the closed beta. So just to give a little backstory to this, New World on August 4th was officially delayed for around a month from its August 31st release date to now a September 28th release date, which would also mark the fourth delay for New World. And then on August 5th, replying to someone else's tweet, the official New World Twitter page tweeted, "We are working on bugs, serviceability, and critical issues. We aren't adding additional features or content between now and launch." Now, a lot of people I have seen talking about this tweet are taking it as they're not adding any new content and all of the content in the full release of New World will be everything we saw in the closed beta test and there won't be anything additional past that. And I really don't take this tweet as that. And I think there's a bunch of information pointing to there being additional content that we never got to see in alphas or the closed beta test. So first off, for the tweet itself, it was posted on August 5th, so it was posted a few days after the closed beta test had already concluded. If the developers of the game had content they didn't want to show in alpha or beta, if they had any content in the files that was pretty much done, that just needed polishing, that just needed bug squashing, any of that could still be in the game on launch, with this tweet still proving to be accurate, because it would already be stuff that they had created. It could have already been stuff that was in the release client of the game, just not in different test clients that we got to play on for the closed beta test. There is a bunch of information that I'm going to go over that points to there being a pretty good chance that there will be stuff we've never seen in the full release of the game. So first off, there have been many alpha testers that have all said something in the vein of there being additional content that Amazon does not want to show for alphas, don't want to show for betas, that will be in the launch of the game. And there have been alpha tests running for New World since before the preview event last year, all the way from the preview event last year up to the closed beta test that we just had. And I have seen probably over a dozen posts from different people in those alphas saying something very similar, that Amazon is not showing absolutely all of the content in any of these tests. And in one of my recent videos where I was going over some data mining stuff, there was a post on that from someone who's claiming to be an alpha tester that I want to go over again, because I have seen a lot of the same information from other alpha testers. So this comment is, "Brimstone Sands is the home of the ancient dragon that corrupted the princess in Ebonscale. The zone is a continuation of the Ebonscale storyline." And this is in reference to the desert zone that people glitched into in the beta and that has been data mined many times, that most people say is going to be the first added zone to the game that we've never seen. The second zone is going to be a forest zone and is connected to Morningdale. This is the home of the ancients and where the most powerful of the ancients retreated to once the corruption became too strong. Both these zones were brought up in a thread on the alpha forums a long while back, because in the alpha you could go into these zones but you would die to a dot damage. Amazon has been very open with the alpha players in discussing these things, and a topic of conversation happened. The Azov staff storyline continuing to level 60 has been something a lot of alpha players have been telling people whenever they say there's no endgame content. Questlines and endgame content were purposely hidden in the alpha and beta because Amazon didn't want anybody to have a head start on the endgame. The devs have also been teasing an endgame raid for a long time, but who knows if that will be included on release. So specifically for the main quest continuing past level 60 and the Azov staff also continuing and having additional upgrade stages, that stuff has also been data mined that I went over in my video as well. There's coding that shows once you get to level 60, you unlock more main quests, and once you get to level 60, you have the ability to continue to upgrade your Azov staff up to a rank of 5. And this is not the first time I've seen these specific things talked about. I've seen them talked about many times. I've seen additional content hinted at and talked about by alpha players for a while now, but being less specific than some of the newer alpha players have been commenting on. So that's multiple pieces of information pointing to the possibility that Amazon locked off stuff out of the alpha and beta test builds of the game that will be in the end game of New World on full release that they didn't want to show anybody. They didn't want to show the ending of the story. They didn't want to show some of the end game stuff. So there was still new stuff for people to figure out. And like this poster says, so people didn't get as much of a head start into the end game. And like I said, I've seen this talked about multiple times. We now have data mining also showing this stuff to be a very good possibility and multiple alpha testers talking about it. So that's just the first bit of information that I think is the strongest information pointing to there being additional content in the full release of the game that still doesn't go against that tweet, because it would have been stuff that was already in the files, already being worked on, and some of the stuff had a pretty good chance of already being slated to be in the full release of the game. They just didn't have it in the alpha or beta tests, so it was a surprise for us on full release. Now the second part is some of the information that shows that there's a decent possibility that there can be new weapons in the full release of the game because of how close they are to being completed. So I went over some data mining that showed some new weapons, void gauntlets, daggers, two-handed swords. There was a list of essentially player equipable weapons, but most of them didn't have their skill trees done and some other stuff in it, so they seem to be early stages. But then you have something like the void gauntlet that we went over that legitimately had both of its entire skill trees data mined with all the abilities, what all the abilities do, all of the passives, pretty much everything for the weapon already data mined, meaning it's probably not too far from being able to be put in the full release of the game. And there is some additional information to go with this, because there was a video by a German gaming news YouTube page that has a video on New World that was posted on July 19th of this year, so only about a month ago. And in this video, it seems they're playing on a test version of New World, because at one point they go into their weapon mastery UI, which shows all your different weapons, what levels they are. And in this build of the game, under one-handed weapons, there is a new weapon. There is actually daggers in the game, in the UI, shown under weapon mastery. And then under the magic side, there is void gauntlet. So in one of the test builds of the game, daggers and void gauntlets at minimum have their weapon mastery UI elements already in this test build. So that's now two weapons that have been data mined to be under player equipable weapons, which includes the Void Gauntlet that has every ability and passive already data mined, seeming like the weapon is pretty close to being at the final stages of development. That now also has a video showing a test build of the game that has daggers and Void Gauntlets in the Weapon Mastery UI with their UI elements already in this build of the game, which very much points to the possibility that these things are decently long in development, and if they would be added to the full release of the game on release day, that this also wouldn't go against what was in that tweet, because as we see, they're already in test builds of the game. They're not adding anything new. These could potentially be just something that they need to balance out more and squash bugs for. So all of this information I've just went over, from the additional main quest after level 60 to the Azov staff upgrades to the weapons having all their skills data mined to actually being in some test build of the game a month ago, I think there is a pretty decent possibility that there is additional content that will be in release of New World that Amazon did not show us in alpha or beta tests. Now, with that being said, there's always a possibility, even though I think it's a really small possibility, that what we saw in the closed beta test of New World is everything that's going to be in launch. I do think that's a much lower chance than there being some additional content in on release that they just haven't shown us yet. But I will say, if the game releases and it doesn't have any new content past what we saw in the closed beta, I think the game is not going to be in a very healthy state 3 weeks to a little over a month past release of the game. I just don't think there's going to be enough content to keep a majority of the MMO player base playing the game with how much content was shown in the beta test. So it's pretty much all I wanted to go over. I think a lot of people are just looking at this tweet, not putting much additional thought into it, and just saying that everything that was in the closed beta is all we're going to get on launch, which I think there's a lot of information that points to that not being the case. And also New World has been delayed a total of 4 times, so a lot of their plans seem to be not near as set in stone as a lot of people would think. So subscribe if you want to see more New World or other MMO videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about New World, if you think there's going to be more content than we saw in the closed beta test on launch, and thanks for watching.